to save a mother from any alien attack, from vicious giant insects who have once again come back. We'll unleash all our forces, we won't cut them any slack. The EDFD boys.
Humanity's will is its fire, and that same fire ensured that we went from Grug and Gunga cooking meat to creating multi-million-dollar giant mech suits to fight Kirkland brand Godzilla. Earth Defense Force 4.1 is my first Earth Defense Force game, or at least technically it is. Before this, I had actually emulated Earth Defense Force 2025 just to get a glimpse into what the franchise had for me. And after finally getting my hands on 4.1, I can confidently say that this game is one of my all-time favorites, because it's got a lot of my personal favorites, like giant bugs and even larger robots and spaceships that are all here to kill humanity and ensure that we are all buried under a mountain of bugs and bots. However, the entire franchise has asked this one question throughout its years. How big do you want the enemies? The answer? Yes! The answer is fucking yes! Because the enemies in this game are absurdly massive for no goddamn reason. And Lord Almighty, I love it so much. And over in terms of content, besides the giant bugs and bots you'll be encountering, how many missions are in the game? Without any DLCs, mind you, since I don't have them. I can't afford it. Simple. 89 missions total, without any DLCs. That is an absurdly long mission count, but you know what? I can respect it. Because every single one of these missions are absolutely fucking stupid. And I mean that in the most kind and sincere way possible. It is so dumb, yet fun at the same time. What about enemy variety?
Look at that one! It's red! Red means it's stronger! Oh, we're screwed!
Now, I could just sit here and yap to you about all the different enemies in game and how they interact, but I'm just gonna keep it real simple. There are giant ants, spiders, and giant hornets. And yes, there are even larger variants that are called kings and queens. Why? God knows why. I don't even know how the alien Ravagers managed to get the freaking bugs here, but here we are. Oh, and by the way, in case you're unaware, the Ravagers are the alien species currently invading Earth in Earth Defense Force 4.1's timeline, along with their giant robots that are all named Hector. So keep it in your head canon that they're all just really just Don Hector. Oh, and that previous line of dialogue from the actual game itself, in which we encounter Urginus's Big Papa, is accurate. There are red variants of nearly every enemy in the game, and let me tell you, they are very strong and quite tanky. Meaning you have to prioritize them over literally everyone else. It is very important you understand that very early on. These other variants or sub-variants of the enemies are called mutants, and there's pretty much one of every single one in the entire game. Or be it the Hectors with either a blue shieldy variant that kind of looks like it's covered in blue Gatorade, or the ones with actual shields or heavy weaponry. Then we have the bigger robots known as Dorois, which have longer legs than the more mutated form, which is kind of unnerving to look at actually. Please get away from me. If that wasn't bad enough, the Ravagers have their own Air Force support unit, known as drones, along with flying vehicles. Yeah, I'm just gonna throw them into the drone pit, because that's where they all belong. In a nutshell, the drones mainly attack via shooting lasers at their target. They first lock onto the person they want to shoot before firing. These fellas, the standard drones, fire in bursts. Very short, but not particularly strong. However, you do want to look out for is the much stronger brothers, that being the red drone. The red drones into themselves are very powerful. They're a lot more durable than your standard brethren, even stronger than the more flying vehicle, and fire in much more powerful bursts that can easily shred your HP in a second. They're also incredibly fast and hard to catch. Then we arrive at the Ravager's largest ground support unit, that being the Urginus. A colossal kaiju capable of wiping out entire cities all on its own, whose only weakness is roughly, I'd say, about nearly $1 billion into weapons development, i.e. the walking fortress Balam, whose only weakness is every other enemy in the game. No, I'm being serious, this thing gets shredded by ground troops very quickly, because as it turns out, it's only good at fighting giant monsters, because giant spiders will melt this thing down like it's ice. Visually, the game looks, how do I say this, very low poly. Now, I would like to point out, this is a PC port of the original game 2025 that's been updated for it, with much better graphics overall. Despite that though, it doesn't really look all that impressive compared to other games that came out during that time. Earth Defense Force is all about fighting an absurd amount of enemies, and then having really low poly visuals actually helps it, as it pretty much ensures the game can render all this amount of bullshit you're seeing on screen right now. Seriously, what the hell were they on when they were making this? Dear God. This, however, is also extremely important to actually understand. As you see here, the players have access to an absurdly large library of weaponry, specifically 825 of them with DLCs, and 801 without. And I can guarantee you, out of all 825 of them, are absurdly powerful or ridiculous in scale. Did I mention they're also pretty fun? Yeah. However, these are all split between the 4 classes in the game. Ranger is the first class most players might gravitate towards because he is by far the simplest guy to learn and play. His main primary weapons are shotguns, rifles, sniper rifles, a lock-on missile launcher, a mini-nuke launcher that takes 7 months to hit a target called the Tortoise, or a 20-run M202 splash grenade launcher for some reason. Why? I don't know, but he has one, and you know what? I fucking dig it. That's just a small taste of the ridiculous guns in this game, and it only gets worse from here. I mean, better. Wing Divers are the Earth Defense Force Special Forces unit trained and built for combat against giant insects, making great use of her assets, like laser chainsaws and wings that you can use to fly around. However, she has the worst armor rating in the game and is extremely fragile. However, she can also fly above most enemies, so they can't really reach her in the first place. That is, until you run out of energy or she encounters giant spiders that proceed to shoot their sticky white goo upon her. However, Wing Diver's equipment is all powered by the exact same power source, even her mobility, that lets her fly around, as you can see in this clip. All her weapons are also powered by the same source, so if you run out of energy, you can't really do both. However, this only applies to specific weapons. For example, previously I showed a chainsaw being used up, but something like the Raijin requires it to be recharged per shot. Meanwhile, the chainsaw can have its own little battery. Thus, meaning if you combine a weapon that has its own little battery pack that it can recharge and a weapon that needs a recharge per shot, it means you're not going to be left completely vulnerable. Without that though, you're cooked. A Raider is classified as a support class. However, in the wise words of the Badger, he is not a support class. He doesn't support the violence, he is the violence. With access to strafing runs, and of course the orbital laser cannon you can see, along with numerous vehicles and bombers he can make good use of at any moment in time. And sure, he might have a healing device or a grenade launcher, but I'm keeping it a buck with you, Chief. You're not playing him to use a grenade launcher. You are playing him to use the most overpowered vehicles in the game, or the most dangerous armaments in the game. For example, the Walking Fortress Balam with twin guns is by far my favorite vehicle in the entire game. Even the second largest enemy that can spawn in the game, that being the Argo, ain't got nothing on the Walking Fortress Balam. It was made to fight kaiju. You really think a machine as tall as a mountain is gonna stop it? I don't think so. And this colossal behemoth made by the Ravagers is called the Argo, which is actually a mobile battleship they created in order to stop and destroy humanity with sheer firepower alone. Unfortunately, all I have to do is accelerate my mass to maximize the output. Or, as my commander would say,
just punch him in the face!
The Fencer is a heavy support unit meant and specialized for dealing out a huge chunk of damage very quickly, either by dual-wielding miniguns or missile launchers, or any of the sort. However, despite that, and alongside him having also, you know, artillery cannons that you can just use handheld-wise, he mainly specializes in melee combat. And in the wise words of the Badger, that I'm gonna paraphrase here, I don't know who the fuck sees giant monsters and thinks, oh yes, let me grab my hammer. Mobility-wise, he also has a dash mechanic that lets him quickly move from point A to point B. However, you can also combine this with either a shield or a javelin missile launcher and send your ass flying across the map like you're playing Armored Core. It is just ridiculous. And he is by far my favorite class to play in the entirety of the game. No other character comes close to the sheer absurdity as him other than Air Raider. The story of EDF is all about the Ravagers versus humanity. The Ravagers are here to do only one thing: make humanity extinct and conquer the planet. Unfortunately, we have something known as an unlimited defense budget, so we managed to push them back through countless battles, even defeating an army of their kaiju known as Argineth. In retaliation, they called down their big boys known as the Earth Eaters in order to wipe out humanity. However, there is a weak point on this. Besides the big red spot in the sky, that's actually their weak point. Their main weak point is their commanding officer. We take out their commander, and every single Ravager on the planet will leave or die. That leads us to the final battle with it, which has every laser known to man. Seriously, it looks like I'm inside of a disco over here. And now we've finally arrived to my favorite part about this game, that being the music. A lot about what a person remembers about a game is not only the story, but also the music, as that's something you'll be coming back to long after you've beaten the game and stopped playing. You'll still come back to the OSTs from time to time, and that's no different for EDF. I constantly find myself listening to these tracks constantly. It's surprising, but at the same time, it's also an absolute banger. EDF's style of music can be described as very patriotic or hyper-dramatic during many of the missions throughout the game. And there are 3 tracks in the game that perfectly demonstrate exactly what I'm talking about. The credits theme, known as Let's Go EDF, and Assault Tracks 1 and 2. And I'm just gonna let a little bit of the song just do the talking. Take a listen. Assault 1 has this very dramatic, patriotic theme that gets me hyped up every time I hear it. It is an amazing sound piece to hear. You'll typically hear it during like the tail end of the missions when the tide of the battle is turning in your favor. Assault 2 will typically play during the very beginning of the mission, giving you a sense of desperation and dread, but also acknowledging your power in the mission. Assault 1 is all about making the player feel like they are unstoppable, and with their sheer firepower, nothing can beat them. While Assault 2 reminds them that yes, you are powerful, but also, so is the enemy. So unless you compensate for it, you're gonna get cooked. That's what I love about the OST in this game. All of it is balanced to create a certain feeling based on what's happening in the story. I know that might seem a bit stupid, as yes, every game has done this. Every game since the very beginning where music was introduced has done this. So why is EDF so notable compared to their others? Simple. Tone. EDF, both musically and gameplay wise, is silly. Enemies will ragdoll and get flung around the map. Enemies are way too large and should not be able to exist like this. Enemies ragdoll when you shoot them, especially the Hectors, when you hit them with high damaging rounds and watch their bodies get boinged back. Bugs spew and ooze and scream. Hell, kaijus, as terrifying as they are, look incredibly cool on paper, but also in person. It's just amazing. And the writing for the voice acting in this game is so bad, it's good. Now, I would show an example of some of the voice acting, like I showed prior with like the whole punching in the face bit, but like 90% of the time, I can't hear it over the sounds of the explosions happening in game, which is also EDF's strong suit, as you shouldn't be really focusing on the story. It is happening, and you can track it if you'd like, but its strong suit is its gameplay and how fun it is, and honest to God, it works really well for the game. EDF's story is set aside but not put away forever. It's always there, constantly reminding you of why you're doing this, while also not being in your face about it. That's the strongest part of EDF. It's all about how the story isn't bothering. That's what I love about EDF. It's not shoving a story in front of me I need to learn, it's something I can just enjoy on my own. And with that, we arrive at the end of the video. I give it 8 out of the 10 freedom flags. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like and subscribe. And as always, stay free. Bye bye.